I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I work at Gearhart Law with Richard doing the marketing, and I also have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with inventors, entrepreneurs, and we discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Tonight, our special guest, Jon Ostenson, who is a king of franchising. He's the CEO of FranBridge Consulting, and he's among the top 1% of national franchise brokers.
And then we have two presenters with just incredible products. You got to check these out. Bansi Lakhani has scrubs, healing hands scrubs. And he sent me a pair and I tried them on. I did not want to take them off. I can't, these aren't even.
And it really happened. Yes, she put them on last night and she did not want to take them off. I tried.
Are so comfortable. This fabric is beyond anyway. So we'll let him talk about that later. And then we have Muenyi with HercLéon, which this is so innovative. He makes sheets according to people's physical characteristics. I looked at his website and I was just blown away. I didn't even know that there was such a thing, but he's done a whole bunch of research. So you have to listen to what he has to say. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really innovative and creative because you just normally think of sheets as sheets, but he's taking it to a whole new level. So
it really is.
So, but before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And so who are we IPing in the newsing today?
Well, we are going to talk about the value of patents because Columbia University was awarded over $185 million for patent infringement by Norton
LifeLock Incorporated. So we can talk about this because it's in the public domain. But what happened with the lawsuit?
Well, Norton LifeLock, who protects other people from cybersecurity threats, took some cybersecurity protection software from Columbia and used it in their product.
Right. So really not such a good look for Norton LifeLock. I guess, what were they thinking? Right. And it's not like they just developed it independently. They worked with Columbia University to develop the technology. And so, of course, Columbia got mad and they filed a lawsuit about it. And one of the interesting things was that LifeLock went behind Columbia University's back and filed a patent also covering their technology, and Columbia never knew about it. And so part of the lawsuit was to get the inventorship on that hidden patent
they
corrected.
Filed a patent application. Did it issue as a patent?
Yes, it would have had to because it was in a patent lawsuit.
So the patent would be invalid if it didn't have proper inventorship.
Well, that's always a potential. The case law is split on that, but I would say for our listeners, one of the IP takeaways from our roundtable today is making sure that you get the inventorship right on your intellectual property, because knowingly leaving somebody off can be the basis for making your patent bad and making it unenforceable.
So let's do Richard's roundtable.
All right. Sounds like fun. Welcome to the show, Jon. So great to see you. You're our first target for Richard's roundtable. Tell us what you think.
Richard, no, fascinating. It reminds me of a political story where they're doing what they say not to do. But I think it's very relatable to general business too. And, I always say the partnerships are great until they're not. So here they are, they've collaborated on a development, but things weren't clearly spelled out, whether it be in a business, in the operating agreement, or in your world, in the IP world. Having scenarios play out and thinking ahead of time saves a lot of money and legal cost and issues down the road.
Absolutely. And, your specialty is franchising, as we mentioned earlier. And so part of the franchise model is having things, spelled out so that there is clarity around these issues. And it'd be interesting to get your take on intellectual property franchises, if a franchisee invents something a little bit later. But no, that sounds like a really incredible connection. Bansi, what are your thoughts?
It's surprising that a company like Norton, who knows everything about infringement and still willfully went on doing infringing on somebody else's work. I mean, we have situations here in our clothing industry whereby we unknowingly do infringe on each other. But of course, the laws, I guess, in our industry, or at least in our products, are not so stringent. So the intellectual property rulings may not apply as much in our industry, but clearly in Norton's case, I mean, it's an embarrassment what they did.
$185 million embarrassment.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking Norton. I don't know anything about them as a company. It could be that this was some sort of accident. Infringement doesn't have to be intentional, or maybe they were a little bit too aggressive. Sometimes that happened, but they obviously, I think, hopefully learned a lesson through this experience. In the clothing industry, you're right. I mean, clothing is harder to protect through intellectual property. At least the design and the look of the fashions are difficult, and it's really well known in that the designers, they do their designing, and then everybody looks at the designers and they make kind of adjustments. They change the materials, they change the cut a little bit, and then they sell it as a product. And that's how the whole industry, works.
Yeah, in a way, they say there is no original. Everything is a take from somewhere else and modified.
Right. And so in those cases, you can certainly trademark your brand, which we would always recommend. But unless there's something kind of special about the clothing, it is kind of difficult to protect. And we think about, for example, about retro fashions where they start borrowing from years ago. So everything is old is new again, I suppose.
Absolutely. So who's next?
Yeah.
Who is next? What are your thoughts on all of this stuff?
I mean, I'm not very, huge in Japan. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I mean, while you were talking, I looked up Norton LifeLog's market cap, and it looks like they have to pay 180 million, but being worth 14 billion, that sounds like a speeding ticket to me, because it must be worth their time somehow, because they're $14 billion, that's a small price to pay. I have a car right now and I'm driving, I get a ticket, I pay the ticket, I keep moving, and I get where I'm trying to go to. So if I have a meeting to get to, and the meeting, I'm gonna make $1 million in that meeting, I have to pay $200 ticket, I'll pay the ticket, and then I'll get to the meeting, on time. So, but I'm currently going through the patent process right now, so I'm kind of getting a lot more versed in patenting. But it's really hard, like in textiles, to patent anything. Yeah. And also in Shark Tank, they were like, "Why are you patenting patents?" And I'm like, "Patents in textile, good luck. I mean, it's possible, but it's very hard." So because you just have to change a few things here, like you said, and then you're not infringing anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, textiles has been a place where there's been a lot of investment for a long time, and in technologies. And so there's a lot of it's hard to do something, from a technical perspective that's really new in textiles. So the patents tend to be narrower in scope. But from a marketing standpoint, there's obviously plenty of potential, and I see that you're capitalizing on that. Kenya, what are your thoughts?
Well, to Wen's point, that's a really expensive speeding ticket. So whether I had the money or not to pay it, I don't know that I would feel so good about paying it. My question is more for you, Richard. What would you advise your clients, right, in this situation, like to do ahead of time to kind of get
ahead of it.
protected and so on and so forth?
Well, thank you for asking. And first of all, is something that John brought up, which is the contract and making sure that it's really, it's really clear, and that you have, the legal tools can only take you so far. They're important, but at the end of the day, it's the business relationship that matters the most, and the legal stuff is only there as a backup. So you definitely want to pay attention to it, but you also want to have the right kind of relationship with your partner. And if you're at the point where you're suing each other, that means the business relationship went south, right? And basically because they couldn't work it out. And so that's one of the things. Choose your partners carefully, but then also have a good contract and good communication, so everybody knows what's going on, because somebody probably found out about this by surprise, and they got upset, and so that prompted a lawsuit. So all of the things that you would do to conduct business in a positive way, you need to always do that. And that will help keep you out of lawsuits. So, and then if somebody is infringing, you do try to work it out. They should be getting some sort of royalty for their work, some sort of credit for it. And obviously they weren't for some reason. And that's what provoked this. So those are my thoughts.
Excellent.
So that was a really fascinating, comments. And I really enjoyed hearing from our guests and, bringing all of that to our attention. Now it's time for Jon Ostenson, who's the CEO of FranBridge Consulting. I take it that the word Fran in FranBridge is because you have a daughter named Fran, right?
I told him not to.
Not yet. Went down that path. Wife wouldn't let me, and she calls the shots around here. But no, the Fran. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we should have named one of our kids Pat for patent, right? And
No, not right.
I don't know what we could call him, TM for trademark, or anyway.
Let's ask John what FranBridge does.
What does FranBridge do, John?
Yeah, sticking on the F word, the F word meaning franchise. When I say franchise, you think fast food. And the fact is there are 4,000 franchise brands in the US alone. Roughly half of those operate in industries outside of food. And so it's a wide variety of industries. We have the opportunity to educate and take our clients through a very streamlined process of playing matchmaker, helping them understand the opportunities that are the best fit for them available in their market. And having been a past franchisor and multi-brand franchisee myself, I'm able to bring those insights into play to help new entrepreneurs get into business ownership.
So I have a ton of questions for you. So I think in my mind, the good thing about doing a franchise is all the infrastructure is set up. And so you can step in and know exactly what you have to do and know that if you follow this model, it will work and you will make money. Is that right?
Elizabeth, I'd say franchising is not right for everyone. Some people insist on having their thumbprints all over a business. They don't want to stay within the lines. However, for the vast majority, franchising is a better path because it's exactly what you said. You have a playbook on day one. You're starting on third base, not first base. You've got a coach in that franchisor on the sidelines. You've got other franchisees living the same thing in other markets. You're able to exchange best practices. And then finally, from an exit standpoint, you get a higher multiple on average when you sell a franchise business versus non-franchise. There's been a lot of research and studies, which I'm happy to dig into, but there's a lot of value in that resale down the road as well.
Wow. I mean, it really sounds like a perfect situation. My dad used to work for a franchisor before he retired. He worked for Tasty Freeze, and he worked in their main office, and he was actually like, he would go around to the different franchises and make sure their equipment was working right. So that was his role. But so, like, for example, what do different franchisees allow different latitudes in how I should say, how do different franchisors have a lot of different latitudes in how they handle different franchisees? Can franchisees experiment a little bit? Is it just depend on the company that they're working with?
Absolutely. It comes down to the leadership team. That's one of those things that we really vet and look closely at when we work with a client going through the process. Having been a franchisor myself of the Inc. 500 franchise, we grew largely because of the testing that our franchisees were doing. They may test a new marketing vehicle in their local market. If it worked, we shared that with other franchisees. So you're constantly exchanging best practices. And I always encourage emerging franchisors to really give their franchisees some leeway to go outside the lines on occasion and run tests.
Well, I read the McDonald's book years and years and years ago, and they didn't do that. If you did not like cross your T's and dot your I's the way that Ray Kroc wanted you to, you did not get another franchise from him. But by the same token, I had a teacher in high school way back when who said the reason people go to McDonald's is not for the food. It's because they know exactly what to expect. You could pull into any McDonald's across the country and get the same hamburger, right? So I think that is the beauty of franchises. And I do think, though, that having each one be a little different according to the owner's flair is more interesting, right?
Yeah, and you certainly make adjustments to local markets too. I mean, the industries that we work in, home and property services has been booming ever since COVID. Automotive, anything related to kids, pets, the aging population, these industries that people are willing to spend money on, that Amazon's not going to disrupt, that COVID in large part won't disrupt. And I always joke that the non-sexy is the new sexy. People are gravitating towards opportunities like roll-off dumpsters or ServPro type models, water mitigation, mold remediation, things that in the past, they wouldn't have been as attracted to back in the trendy days of food or even fitness. Health and wellness, that's another big area. And I think coming out of COVID, Elizabeth, a lot of people really questioned the path they're on and said, hey, maybe now's the time to scratch out entrepreneurial itch. And roughly half of those that we work with are looking to make the jump oftentimes from the corporate world full time. We actually just worked with a Wall Street attorney. He got into a gutter business. Beautiful financial model around that. His mind was in the gutters. But over 90% of those that we work with end up in an industry that was never on their radar and they never knew even participated in franchising. So that's what we love doing, is really educating and helping that light bulb turn on to the types of opportunities. And frankly, 95% of my clients don't want food. In their minds, there are easier ways to make money with less risk and less capitalization. So we're seeing a wide variety of backgrounds getting into a wide variety of industries.
So what is the range of cost? If I wanted to buy a franchise, could I get one for under 10,000 or
Not under 10,000. I'd say 75% of the deals that we do are between 100,000 and 300,000, and then some a little higher, some a little bit lower. A lot of it comes down to, is it a retail storefront or is it a remote work type business, more of a service-based business? But there are different ways to fund that. SBA loans are extremely common. Believe it or not, the government still supports small businesses in some formats. But SBA loans, there's what's called a ROBS program, which you may be aware of, that allows you to tap into your retirement funds and self-direct those without the tax implications. Portfolio loans, and then right now we have record levels of cash on the sidelines. So a lot of people are funding out of pocket as well.
And will the franchisor typically fund part of the franchise, or do they prefer, they probably prefer to get the franchise fee up front, but are there circumstances when they would do that?
There are circumstances. I'm working with a client in Seattle right now that's going through that. I'd say that's not the norm. But again, there's some leeway there, and it comes down to the franchisor. As a franchisor, you want to treat all of your kids the same. You don't want to show preferential treatment or creates issues you have to deal with. So, they try to be fair across the board, but, it could be that they cut out royalties for the first 6 months, or if you buy 3 locations, you get the 4th free. I mean, there are other ways of going about supporting the franchisees on the financial side, maybe other than just funding it themselves.
So can we take ServPro as maybe an example? If I buy a ServPro franchise and I fork over $100,000, what do I get for that? Do I get the trucks? Do I get the accountants? Do I get the marketing? What can I expect?
So the range I gave there of 100,000 to 300,000, that would be reflected in the item 7 of the franchise disclosure document. Every franchise system has an FDD, as we call it, because they're regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. So the goal is to really provide an eyes wide open view going in. So if you're purchasing into a ServPro, as you said, you would have a range of what the expectation is, not only on the financial side of how you can perform, but also what is that investment. And so when I quote those numbers, that's an all-in investment franchise fee. That would include your working capital, startup cost. And then really a business like that, your variable is going to be, do you finance or lease that truck out of the gate, or do you buy it outright? That's going to be your biggest cost variable in a service-based business. But no, what you get when you buy into a franchise, you get the brand, you get the support, the training, and then you get to tap into intellectual property, a lot of know-how that goes on, and you sign up front to make sure that you don't then take it and run somewhere else. The franchisor is very well protected, but no, it's the path and the playbook, and then that support along the way that would be the heart of it.
So I would have to go find my own accountant, and I would maybe start my own LinkedIn account that related to the business. But I'd have to check with them to see if that was okay to have a LinkedIn account because of their branding, right?
Most franchise brands have an in-house marketing team, and that's one of the benefits you get is they're supporting you in that regard. They still let you do some of the local marketing, the grassroots type efforts, potentially LinkedIn if it's a B2B type business. However, if it's a business to consumer, there are going to be other paths, and they're going to suggest, hey, in your first month, here are the marketing tactics you want to do here in the first 6 months, and then when you expand. And so it really builds on each other. And again, you follow that playbook, but there is some leeway. I will say this, when I was at Shelf Genie and we worked with hundreds of franchise locations across the US, those that stick closest to the system were our best franchisees. And it sounds cliche, but their performance was typically stronger than our average.
Great. Well, we have to take a break. We'll be right back with more of Jon Ostenson and franchising right after this. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. We're here with our guest this evening, Jon Ostenson, and he's the CEO of FranBridge Consulting. He's among the top 1% of national franchise brokers. So, Kenya, you must have some questions rolling around in your mind about franchising. What's on your mind?
I do actually. I actually went through a yogurt phase of wanting to own a yogurt store for a while, and someone beat me to the punch. I had looked at a space and didn't have the resources at the time, and someone actually opened one up, and it's been open for the last 5 years. One of the things I thought about, though, when I was looking to go the franchise model versus going rogue is like, what are some of the benefits of doing it through a franchise via just kind of recreating the whole thing on your own and going rogue?
Yeah, well, first off, I'd say the data doesn't lie. If you were to purchase a franchise, your odds of success are going to be in business. Over 90% of those that launch are still in business 5 years later. We all know the stats on startups, less than 10%. So your odds of success are a lot better because you're really starting out of the gate in business for yourself, but not by yourself. You've got that franchisor coaching you. You've got other franchisees you're learning from. And again, you receive a higher multiple on average at the end of the day. Now, are you paying for that support along the way via a royalty? You are, but is that replacing you having to staff for certain positions or learn things the hard way? So, we certainly look at those trade-offs, and not every franchise system is created equal. And that's where having the relationships and the experience that we do across hundreds of brands in different industries, knowing those franchisors, knowing the teams representing them, we're really able to look behind the scenes versus if you were to just start Googling today and you see the best foot forward from every marketing system out and franchise system out there.
So, Jon, so just let's take it from a slightly different perspective. Suppose you have a business and you want to franchise it. What kinds of businesses are amenable to being franchised, and what should a business owner consider if they'd like to take their business to the next step?
First off, I always encourage business owners, and I'm a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, so I have these conversations a lot, but I encourage them to think of their business as a franchise, whether or not they ever do franchise it. If you put the systems in place, the training, the support personnel, how do you scale to a multi-location model? That's one consideration. But no, franchising makes a lot of sense for a lot of businesses. And those that I've helped have cited a few things. One, it's a great way to scale using other people's money. You always want other, people that work for you to think like owners. Well, now you've got folks that know their local market that are actually putting skin in the game. So you're able to scale more rapidly using others' resources. Then at the end of the day, private equity loves franchising. If you do some Googling, you'll see the acquisitions that are happening across North America right now. Private equity is scooping up franchisors right and left, putting money into the system and really scaling. But no, it's a wide variety of industry, Richard, circling back to your questions. We see everything from, the traditional oil changes, let's say, to, in food concepts to, a chiropractic clinic that I just helped franchise. They had 12 corporate locations. They said, let's go grow. Just worked with a flooring company to go through the process. You even have some B2B consultancy type businesses as well. So it's a wide variety, dozens of industries. And oftentimes, businesses don't consider franchising as a way to scale until they're introduced to the idea.
So I want to go back the other way. That was a great answer. And if I'm looking to become a franchisee, first of all, you said that your service of matchmaking is free for the franchisee, right? So that's awesome. Is there a vetting that you do? Do I have to fill out a bunch of questionnaires? Do you do a background check? How do you figure out and then how do you figure out like which franchise would be right for me?
Yeah. So we have the backdrop of having relationships across the country with franchisors. We see who is doing the deals, what kind of candidates are they attracting. And so we're able to do some vetting just naturally based on deal flow, based on the proposition they have. What are their competitive advantages in the market? What's their financial model? What is the experience of their leadership team? That is a very key piece that we look at. And so when we engage with the client, again, it's entirely free. We get paid by the franchisors on the back end. For them, it's a sales and marketing cost. None of that ever gets passed on to our clients in any way. What we'll do is we'll spend a little bit of time on the phone asking questions. We kind of know which way to take the conversation. We'll then have them fill out a questionnaire. And then we jump right into looking at opportunities. Typically a week later, we'll walk through typically 8 to 10 opportunities that are available in their market that fit their criteria and that we see resonating with others with similar backgrounds. From there, we work with them to narrow it down to somewhere between 2 and 4 opportunities to actually make an introduction, have a call with the franchisor, start their exploratory process. They can drop out at any given time, but inevitably what they ranked as number 3 becomes their number 1 after they have that call. And so it can be an iterative process where we bring additional opportunities in to introduce to them as they're developing that framework and that lens through which to evaluate opportunities. That's a skill set and a muscle that most people aren't used to, but once they start comparing option A versus option B, it brings things to mind and their thinking evolves along the way.
That's amazing. So earlier, Jon, you mentioned virtual franchises. So I didn't appreciate that was a thing. Can you tell us a little bit more about how virtual franchises work?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is definitely something coming out of COVID. The themes I'm hearing are, hey, what delivers the highest return on investment with the fewest number of people? And oftentimes they're saying, hey, what business will allow me to not have a customer facing retail setup? I think there's still a lag from COVID. Everyone remembers some of the retail businesses that did get hit. However, so many thrived during that time. And I just point as an example to the $600 billion a year home services and property services market. Everything from the gutters that I mentioned to pool cleaning to I'm a franchisee of a driveway company. We don't even have to market that business because there's such demand out there. They find us organically. So all sorts of niches around renovating, or, I just had a client up in New York that purchased, he was a pharmacist, mid 40s, had built up a FedEx route business on the side, had 26 FedEx trucks. He came to me and said, hey, I want to get into the home services space. We looked at 10 different opportunities together. He narrowed it down. I eventually purchased a garage renovation business, the flooring, the cabinetry, everything, and just saw an opportunity in the market for that. So definitely a lot of interest. And that's a business where he doesn't have to have a physical location or footprint. Eventually, as he scales, he may have one, but it's going to be more on the back end. It's going to be for team meetings, for inventory, for supplies, but it's not going to be customer facing, high cost retail.
Wow, that's amazing. And you say here that the real estate is also a place where franchising is very popular. I guess if I think about it, I think about Coldwell Banker and some of the big real estate companies.
Mm-hmm.
Are those franchises also, or are they something else?
Yeah, many of them are. Keller Williams is another example. And I would say that more than half of my clients have investment real estate, myself included. And they're either looking for businesses that complement their core business and some of the relationships they may have in the market, or they're looking for businesses that diversify from from that. So in some cases, they're looking to keep their day job and run a business as a side hustle on the side where they put a general manager in place day one. In some cases, they're looking to make the jump and make a career change and actually run it themselves. But no, quite a few businesses. We just had a Keller Williams client that has a brokerage here in Atlanta that purchased a property management business to complement the real estate business. In his case, he could have started the business himself, but he said, hey, I've been there, done that. I'd rather, start on third base and be able to get out of the gate faster.
So how much do you have to know about the industry that you're going to be a franchisee? And so let's say that I wanted to buy a car wash, for instance. I don't really know anything about car washes. Would that be a bad fit? I mean, should I do something I know something about?
That's an excellent point. No, and my answer would be no, absolutely not. It really gives you that chance to pivot or to get into a new space. Most franchisors prefer that you not have a background in that industry. They don't want you coming in with the baggage. So they will take you through all of the training. And then ultimately, really they take you soup to nuts. And so you don't have to have a background. What I will say is, if you have transferable skill sets, say you've had a sales and marketing background and you really enjoy that, well, let's take that into a new industry. And maybe you start out as that lead salesperson, but then, your first person on the back end that you hire would be an operations person or vice versa. So I'd say it's more skill sets that we're looking to transfer versus industry experience.
Okay. Kenya, did you have another question?
I think this is all fascinating and so interesting. So what are some common mistakes? People have to make mistakes going into these franchise businesses sometimes. What do you see as like a common thread that people kind of get into a situation where maybe it's not a good fit?
Yeah, I think due diligence. I was on the phone with a client in Dallas yesterday, and he's all excited about an opportunity, but it was the only one he's looked at so far. And I think until you have comparables, you're not going to know what's out there. Oftentimes you don't marry the first girl you ever met. It's a good idea to have some experience going in. So I'd say that's common, but also just understanding the time it will take, even if you run a semi-absentee or what we call an executive model. If you think it's going to take 5 hours a week, it's probably going to take 10. If you think it's 10, it's probably going to be 15. So, that's where, we've got some coaching that we provide with an outside provider to our clients that we actually fund ourselves to help them think through, just what they are signing up for, make sure it's the right fit. But, we just have case study after case study of clients of ours that have built portfolios of businesses. Every year or so, they come back and they buy a new one and they put a young general manager in place, set them up for success, align their interest, and then they move on to the next one. So it is a trend, or I don't like the term trend, but it is a movement that we're seeing across the country right now.
Well, that was another question I had for you. So how much time do you have to put into it as a franchisee? So let's say you don't want to quit your job yet. Can you do a full-time job and do this? Or do you need to plunge in 100% to one franchise?
You absolutely can do both in most cases. It depends on the franchise business. There are some that require what we call owner-operators, day-to-day operators, but the vast majority do allow for that semi-passive, semi-absentee model. But, it comes down to having the right general manager. And so we're hiring a recruiter that's actually going to help us find general managers for our clients, because I see that as the biggest need. They say, how do I know who to go with? Because just like any position, and Bansi and Wen know this, if you were to hire someone and they don't work out, it takes some time to find someone new, and there may be some cost associated with that. So really identifying the right talent. And the great thing is when you hire, say, a young 27-year-old, which we've kind of had the chance to do that with several of our businesses, you give them a fancy title, you give them some incentive comp. It's a large market to pull from. There are a lot of good people out there that would love to have that freedom and degree of autonomy. We just hired a CPA. He, 27 years old, past 5 years, he worked for one of the big four. We brought him in. He was eager to get out of the four-wall environment. He said, I'm ready to go build something. And he's led our driveway business and done exceedingly well. And we provide a little coaching, a couple of calls a week. But yeah, it's a beautiful model when you get it set up right.
That's amazing. Well, this has been very informative, Jon, and I really do appreciate you joining us on the program. I know that a lot of our listeners would find this possibility attractive. How can they get in touch with you if they have more questions?
Yeah, as a first step, come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com. On the website, sign up for our monthly newsletter. We deliver some great content every month. If you'd like to engage, we're happy to jump on a quick call as well and just kind of help you to determine, does it make sense to enter this process? Secondly, we have a book coming out in Q3 that we're really excited about, the book on non-food franchising. And so if you sign up for our newsletter, we'll make sure that all of your listeners get a copy of the book as well.
That sounds fantastic. Thanks again. And we'll be back with more Passage to Profit. Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart here right after this. And welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. It's Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And we just heard from Jon Ostenson about franchising. And I couldn't let this moment pass us by because my dad worked as a franchisee in Tasty Freeze, or I should say worked for the franchisor Tasty Freeze for many years. And before that, he worked in Chicago, and he actually met and knew Ray Kroc before he started the McDonald's franchises. And Ray Kroc actually asked my dad to go into business with him, and my dad turned him down. and up until he passed, my dad winced every time he saw a McDonald's commercial on TV. So,
except it was probably the right decision, because I don't think Ray Kroc was very easy to work with.
yes, that's a good way to look at it. I appreciate your perspective on that. Anyway, it's time now for Fireside and Power Move. So Kenya, who is the power mover today?
Yeah, for Power Move, we're going to talk about Bill Spurrill. He is a tech CEO. He actually just sold his global data consortium for an undisclosed huge sum, and he made 20 of his employees millionaires. So I thought that was a really big power move, and nice of him, right? So when he first started the company, he was only able to raise $5 million from investors, which left the company's equity in the hands of the employees. And he and Data Global made sure that the employees had enough equity and significant enough payout to be able to become millionaires. So I thought that was great. And he's actually retiring as CEO so that he can continue to focus on boosting minority talent in the tech space. So I thought that was a good power move for today.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
a great story. And I think, if a CEO goes into it looking for ways to do well by their team and lift them up, their chances of success are always, so much better. And so he obviously capitalized on that, right?
For sure. Maybe Bob Pittman will feel warm and fuzzy and make me a millionaire one day. Who knows?
Yeah,
I won't hold my breath.
I had a conversation with him, and you're on the list. So, and what's up with Fireside?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know what Fireside is, it's actually Fireside Directory. It's a video directory of small businesses. And I've been working on it for a couple of years now. As I mentioned earlier, I was doing interviews of people in the studio, and then COVID hit. So I started doing them over Zoom, and I've been developing it ever since. And I wrote a patent application for it, which was a provisional application. So that means I can add stuff to it for a year. And then I have to file what's like the real one, which is the utility application. So I have some new ideas to add to it. Actually, Kenya and I were talking about stuff, and just like Kenya is so creative and intuitive. I mean, it just kind of led me to think of some more things I'm going to add to the patent application before I submit the real one. And but also I was so excited to have Jon on here today, because my original idea with Fireside was to franchise it to get people to do interviews. And I have a set way to do the interviews that I would give to people. I need to have some software written to do it, but I kind of abandoned that idea when everything started over Zoom. But now I'm thinking there's no way I could do all the interviews. And I was thinking people have videos, but they don't have videos done the way that I would do them, that would have marketing techniques and SEO techniques built into them. So the franchise model is still open for Fireside Directory.
That's great. One of the things that I love about this show is that it sparks ideas. I mean, every show I am always taking notes, and I write things down, and I say, maybe there's an idea I can incorporate into my business. And so if you're in the entrepreneur space, if you're a small business owner, you know, it's always nice to have different perspectives. And that's one of the things that I like about what we're doing here. So
Absolutely. So I get to introduce our next presenter. So I have to say, Bansi Lakhani with Healing Hand Scrubs, he sent me some of his scrubs, and you don't have to be a nurse to wear them, although they are made for nurses and people that work in the healing space, but they are so comfortable. This fabric, I know he worked really hard to get this fabric right. These are amazing. And our daughter's a nurse, and she is definitely getting some of these from us. So we want to hear your story, Bansi. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the kind words. Thank you both for having me. I am Bansi Lakhani, the founder and creative spark here at Healing Hands. Healing Hands, we design and produce very comfortable, stylish, functional uniforms that bring in a smile on a healthcare worker's face every single time they put our clothing on. I would say gratitude opens the door to so many blessings. Back in 1997, I had a massive open heart surgery. The doctors told me I was 1 in a million people who would survive such a big heart attack. Fast forward, I would say I am still alive at 25 years later, all due to the nurses who gave me such wonderful motherly love and care. And I recovered from the massive heart attack. While I was recovering in the hospital, I could sense that what they were wearing was not comfortable. It was very stiff looking. It was boxy. Just by visual, I could say that the fabrics were pretty scratchy, and it would not make her comfortable wearing them. So I figured, what can I do to pay back these beautiful caregivers? And a thought came to my mind that all I know is how to make beautiful clothing because of my sportswear background. So I vowed that when I get out of the hospital, I am going to start making beautiful, stylish, functional uniforms for the caregivers. And that's how Healing Hands was born.
Well,
This is my passion. This is my passion, my passion and love for the nurses, and my talent in the textile industry helps me create these wonderful fabrics, beautiful fitting garments that I wouldn't say it's a crime to call them scrubs, but anybody can wear them. They are so stylish. You could actually wear them anywhere, going out for dinner or to the mall or even lounging at home. And Elizabeth, you have witnessed the clothing for yourself.
I wanted to say they are stylish, and this it sounds crazy, but this is really true. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I did look 10 pounds lighter. I'm not kidding. Like they fit, and the way that the pants are cut and stuff, it gives you a very slimming silhouette.
Well, they're going to be flying off the shelves like hotcakes after you said that.
But you could also work out in these. Like, these would be great workout clothes too.
Yes. And so basically nowadays everything is athleisure inspired. So obviously with the trend, the styling and the fabrication, the fitting, everything is towards athletics. So yes, people do wear our clothing even for yoga.
Right. I want to bring up one thing before I hand the mic over to somebody else. You sent me this wonderful little booklet that had pictures of your scrubs in it and some inspirational things. And I just want to read something from it. In 2020, Healing Hands donated over 4.5 million units of scrubs and PPE to hospitals and healthcare facilities in need across the US. That is amazing. Like that
Yes.
is, you talk about gratitude and giving back. That's wonderful.
Yes, we believe in gratitude and good karma, and doing the right thing. I think everybody should give back to the world, and I am very blessed. I would say I'm in a position to give back. So the pandemic was just the right timing, perfect timing, perfect opportunity to give back, and we saw on television how in the beginning time of pandemic, the hospitals were struggling to get PPE. So we jumped on the bandwagon with all our connections in China and imported a lot of PPE. So we donated.
What is PPE?
PPE is personal protective equipment, the mask and PPE gowns that are needed in the hospitals. So it's personal protective equipment. And we brought in tons of headgear and masks, which we donated to several hospitals, healthcare facilities, nursing homes, several $1 million worth. Plus, we also donated 30,000 scrubs because the healthcare workers had to change the scrubs very often because of COVID.
Right.
So,
they didn't even wear them home. Like our daughter wouldn't wear her scrubs home. Right. She had to leave them there.
Yes.
She worked with that. I can see that John is eager to ask a question.
Oh, Bansi, I just want to say, you know, I try to live my life by the mantra of, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected, that whole idea of stewardship. And I mean, you're doing it firsthand. So I just applaud what you've done and what you're doing. It radiates.
So, I mean, we've done plenty, but I still think there is so much more to be done. And we encourage not only as a company, but even in person, even my whole family, everybody is into giving back, and it feels good. You know, you actually don't lose out anything. Whatever you give, you get much more in return. So this is just, I guess, God's way of giving you back what you gave, and it comes back multifold. Of course, I'm not giving so that I get multifold, but God has been very kind.
Kenya, do you have a question or comment?
I do. You said you can wear them anywhere. I wonder if I could have wore them to the Met Gala the other night on the red carpet.
Absolutely.
Probably would have looked better than everybody.
Absolutely. I'll send you some, and then you'll be the judge.
I have a question for you about the material, because, you know, scrubs are like notoriously kind of rough, like you said. What's the difference between your material that you use versus some of the other competitors out there?
Yeah. So in the olden days, when I was in the hospital, and even now I still see them around, mainly it was poly cotton based stiff fabric, because obviously in those days it was designed so that it can last for many washes. Even today we design it to be washed many times, but technology has changed. Today, most of the scrubs are made with polyester and blends of polyester with rayon, polyester with tencel, polyester with cotton, and stretch is very important. So spandex is incorporated in the fabrics. Therefore, today you cannot distinguish between, let's say, a Lululemon fabric and our fabric.
Do you have a patent on your fabric or your technology?
No. Unfortunately, in textile industry, it is extremely difficult to get patents on these things. Extremely difficult, almost impossible.
So
I found the fabric to be, Kenya, to answer your question, it was kind of like a microfiber. it was soft, but stretchy a little bit. And it was just really super comfortable. And you could wear it tight against your skin and it looked good and it felt good. And years ago, I had pants out of a similar fabric and I could never find something like that again. And this is really comfortable. That's all I can say.
Sounds like it. Stretchy, which I love and need.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Today, everything has stretch, and everything needs to have stretch, and obviously,
especially for some of us.
I didn't mean it that way, but yes, stretch gives a little luxurious feel, I would say.
And room for the Chick-fil-A.
That's true.
That's
true.
That's
true. With your material,
Bansi, you and when we're talking before the show, I'm sorry, I had an ear open while you guys were talking about SKUs.
Yes.
And so since you're both in the business of providing different sizes and different colors and different cuts, you have to have a pretty big inventory, and that becomes a huge part of your business, right? So
yes,
for people who are thinking about clothing lines, how do you effectively manage all of those SKUs? And maybe you can explain to our audience what an SKU is, right?
So SKU is a style, a color, and a size. Makes it one SKU. So if you make a collection of, let's say, 5 different styles, and then as I was mentioning earlier, that there are 14 common standard colors in America that are worn in the hospitals. So if you make a collection that has 14 colors, 5 styles, and then you have sizes which go from extra small to 5X. So that is so many SKUs, right? Then there are lengths in the pants, which is a short length, petite length, regular length, and tall length. So that's adding to the SKUs. So by the time you put one collection together and you want to make it available to most hospital colors and you want to cater to all of them, then the number of SKUs is like tremendous, so many SKUs. And then you have to have them in stock because the retailers, they don't want to wait. They want to order today and they want the goods to be shipped out within 24 to 48 hours. So you have to have that much inventory and you have to forecast your demand. So to keep 3 months inventory on hand, and then with all the logistics issues that are happening these days, supply chain and logistic issues, your inventory is multi-million dollars. Now, of course, you don't have to choose to cater to all the hospitals. Obviously, then your volume is not going to be that much, and the retailer would not be very interested in carrying your brand or product because they want to cater to all the hospitals, all the requirements of the colors. And it's not only the hospitals, there are doctors' offices, dentists, so many other caregiving facilities that require scrubs, and then they have their own requirements. So, I mean, SKUs is a nightmare. Of course, thanks to the computers that nowadays everything is computerized and we can manage that data. But if I think back 40 years ago when I started my sportswear business, everything was in this computer right here in my brain,
in your brain.
The style numbers and sizes and colors. And then, of course, at that time, you did not have that many SKUs or that many styles because we were catering to just a fashion industry, fast moving fashion industry, whereas uniforms is something, it is called uniform. So there is a uniformity, and that's why you have to have the consistency of the colors, of the sizes, of the styles, and it's a whole different mindset of managing production and inventory.
So if you were giving advice to an entrepreneur who wanted to start a clothing line and was facing this issue, what kind of advice would you give him or her?
Depending on whether they want to go into fashion, sportswear, or do they want to go into any uniforms, whether it is medical uniforms or any other kind of uniforms. McDonald's, they also use uniforms, but that's a different industry. So I would say if you want to get into uniform industry, you must think that you require deep pockets to hold inventory and manage the inventory. As I said, the people who want the uniforms, they are not going to hold the inventory in their warehouses. So you are holding the inventory and you need to deliver it within 24 to 48 hours. It's a tough business. But again, if you have passion for it and deep pockets, then get into the uniforms. It's a very rewarding, definitely very rewarding apparel business.
Wow. So I was just going to mention, I'm sure, John, this sounds like it'd be a tough one to franchise, but I'm sure you could figure it out if you put your mind to it.
There's a way to do it, but I think the opportunity for Bansi here would be working with franchises, maybe setting up the franchise industry as a vertical. Those that have let's say a medical related, or I mentioned the chiropractic one that's franchising earlier, because you get that one-to-many type relationship that you're used to working with the hospital system. For instance, you're able to serve a lot of people through one entity. So it could be a vertical for you.
Well, that leads into a question I had for Bansi. Where are you selling these? And I know you're selling them from your website, but are you selling them in stores or hospital supply stores or anywhere else?
Yes. So currently we have about 800 accounts across the country. They are specific uniform retailers, specialists in medical apparel. And we sell it to them. They in turn sell it to the hospitals or other facilities like dentists or chiropractors or physicians' offices. And they also have retail front for the nurses to walk in and try in and buy it. So right now, that is our channel. Currently, we are not selling the product to the consumers from our website, but soon, I would say in next 3 or 4 months, we will be launching our own website direct to the consumers. However, our whole model is to help the brick and mortar. We are launching this website just more, I would say, from brand awareness point of view, and also to get to that consumer who does not have the brick and mortar close to them. Our whole philosophy is basically to drive the business to the moms and pops, the uniform retailers that are across the country.
Wow. So I see something in this book that I want. How would I get it? Could I go to your website and figure out where the nearest supply store is that might have this top I'm looking at?
Yes, but you have a direct connection with me. So all you have to do is
there's an advantage
go to my website and pick what you want, and I will deliver it to you. But yes, for the consumers who are looking for our product, in the website there is store location. So you put in your zip code and it will show you the nearest store, uniform store that carries our product.
Okay, so your website is healinghandscrubs.com. So excellent.
Yes.
We're out of time for this segment, but what a wonderful thing you're doing. And I would encourage anybody listening to look for these, even if you're not a nurse, if you know a nurse, like who doesn't know somebody in the healthcare profession these days. So send them to the website, find a store, go try these on. You'll be so glad you did. So listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. We just heard from Bansi Lakhani, and we have our special guest with us, Jon Ostenson, today, and we will be right back.
Awesome.
Okay.
I just had a quick question for Bansi. Have you ever thought of extending the wholesale model to nurses and folks in that industry so that they have opportunities to sell your clothes and make money and like kind of be entrepreneurial outside of what they do for a living?
That is absolutely a great question. And initially, when I started Healing Hands in 2009, and I'll give you a little story. When I was in the hospital and I was talking to the administration about me making this product and selling it to the hospitals, they said, we have basically stopped investing money in the uniforms, and we have laundry services that wash and deliver into our vending machines, and that's how the nurse get the uniforms. They did not guide me correctly that there were actually uniform retail stores, which I found out many years later, and that's why I delayed this project and jumped into it much later. But in the beginning, when I was thinking of my channel of distribution, I did think of this channel of having nurses as my salespeople, thousands of them all across the country in various hospitals, that then become my ambassador. And this way they can service their own hospital, their friends, as well as they can make money. So it did, the thought and the idea did come into my mind. And then since I found these uniform retailers, I went this other route of selling to the moms and pops or uniform retailers, who in turn are making the product available to the nurse to try on and come and shop and stuff like that.
Got
So-
it.
You know what?
That's a
I'm
great
sorry, you
start.
guys.
Yeah.
We have somebody waiting for us downstairs. We have
Oh, so sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
should've-
okay. Nobody, I mean, he's probably early, but we just got the glare from our our front
Oh, okay.
desk person. So we need to keep going.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So we took a break, right? So I'll bring us back.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, the Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest today was Jon Ostenson, but now we are on to another presenter, Muenyi.
Well, he still is our guest.
Yes. Okay. So when with HercLéon has something didn't even know that this existed. Unless you've talked to Wen, I bet you don't know anything about this either. So you want to hear about this. Wen, please tell us what you have and how you came up with this idea. This is amazing.
Well, I think he came up to it when he was 3 sheets to the wind.
My name is
No.
Gwen, and yeah, I'm with HercLéon. We do biology-based bed sheets, and so I don't know. I mean, how did I come up with it? It was kind of like a long journey to get to here, but essentially, most people buy bedding and everything kind of based on the material or the thread count or whatever, whoever has the best marketing, basically. And to me, that's useless because unless you're very well educated on exactly how those sheets are made or which materials they're using, it's really hard to know exactly what is necessarily the best bed sheets. And to me, the best bed sheets are the ones that allow you to sleep, fall asleep fastest, stay asleep longest, and get up feeling the most rested. That's the best bed sheets. And so that's what we designed for. Designed for based on those goals for everybody, basically. Everybody, as in like your body, not everybody, as in everyone.
So what are some of the different products that you have? I mean, it sounds like a great idea, and you're really bringing a fresh perspective to bed sheets. And we spend a lot of time sleeping, hopefully, so having a comfortable place to sleep. But you've got it broken up into categories now, right? So tell us about those.
So we have Jack sheets for men. That was one that was on Shark Tank. We have Luna linens that are coming out today for menopause. We have Jill for women. We have Swanson's for seniors. We have Skylar for students, like college students, high school students, and Baba for babies. So we have a few different options, and they all depend on your, again, your body. How is your body working? The hardest one was actually women's sheets, because women's bodies change quite drastically throughout life, for between every phase of life. You know, as you guys know, I'm not trying to explain it, but yeah. So when we were trying to make women's sheets, when people were asking like, why do you have men but not women? And I'm like, because it's not easy, not very direct. You cannot just say women, because it's like, which women are you talking about? A woman that's, you know, pregnant? No, that doesn't apply to a woman that's not pregnant. It's not the same situation for their sleep experience. So yeah, we do that. We do a lot of research on the body and you know, yeah, all that.
Well, I have a
before
couple.
making-
Yeah, I have a couple comments from having been on your website. One is that I see that you sold out of the sheets for people after they work out. That's number one. And number two, you know, the elderly sheets are super important. When my grandma, she was 96 years old when she died, and the only thing I could really get her was really good sheets. And so I got her 600 thread count sheets, because your skin gets so thin when you get older. So I can imagine these are amazing for people as they age.
Yes. Yeah. So the elderly, the older adults, most people have to keep a few things in mind when you get older. As you said, their skin gets thinner, so their ability to keep their temperature high is really difficult. The second is that they are more prone to getting sick. Their immune system is not as effective. So you have to keep the bacteria level in their bed as low as possible. Because let's say they're sharing a bed and their partner is sick, and now the partner's bacteria is gonna be on the bed. And in a bed setting, bacteria multiplies at a very rapid rate, because your bed has a lot of things, a lot of surface area, and a lot of humidity from your body when you sleep at night, which means bacteria can replicate itself really quickly. So we designed the senior sheets to make sure they have the best for their body temperature, for their health. And also, when you get older, your internal clock becomes a little bit more confused. So reducing what would make you wake up while you sleep is also really good. It's like smells and whatever it is, you know, friction, all that, you know. So yeah, we had a good time with that one. My grandparents, I want to make sure my grandparents are getting the best sleep at night. So
There was
Well-
one more quick one, sorry, that you had sheets for like college kids that they didn't have to wash for a long time, right?
well, you
That
know,
was-
college kids aren't. I'm not saying I was not anyway. I'm saying I was not informed on the requirements of washing your sheets all the time. I once a semester, maybe twice a semester, or whenever I had a, you know, after a guest that came over, you know, whatever, you know, I did it when I had to. No one told me, no one gave me the memo that it was a requirement to clean it all the time. So now I know. But yes, college students, and also because they're so stressed from the lack of sleeping, because they're partying too much or studying too much or whatever they're doing in college, and that lack of sleep makes their immune system much weaker. So college kids are actually prone to getting more sick than if they're at home, because of the fact that they're always so stressed out from school, from socializing, from whatever. So having antibacterial sheets or whatever it is that improves their overall like sleep environment for them, also the lack of washing, helps them maybe, you know, get less likely to be sick at school or miss class and then fail or not have a girlfriend or whatever it is. We're helping everything. Also acne too, of course. A lot of kids get acne, so we also help with that too.
You're bringing back all sorts of memories for me when but the idea though is this: the sheets are more specifically tuned, I guess, to the different body types and the different requirements, and you use different materials in the sheets depending on you know the type of person that would be using them, right? So
Yes.
different for college students versus elderly versus athletes. And so so kind of what are some of the more common materials that go into the sheets that make them specially tuned, like for an athlete, as compared to just normal bed sheets? What kinds of things would you normally put in there?
So I mean, that's, yeah, it's all very variable again, as you said. So the things I would say, what I don't do, I try to avoid polyester, microfiber, all those things, because I want to make sure I am reducing my carbon, because microplastic pollution is getting quite out of hand. And so it's our responsibility as textile producers to make sure we're doing the cleanest material we can possibly do for everything we make. So which is what's really a problem for menopause sheets, because when we're making menopause sheets, the night sweats were a big thing, and polyester and microfiber will be the best in that scenario. But for me, I don't think the cost of polluting the planet is worth the benefit of, creating the most ideal particularly. So it took me 2 years to figure out which material could I use that achieves the same goal without having the pollution problem. And so that's one of the challenges. But for the let's say athletes, the athlete sheet, we had to use, so one of the things that NASA did when they were going to space was how did they keep their astronauts comfortable while they're in space? And so they invented a lot of really unique technology, phase changing materials, far infrared reflecting materials, all these different things that NASA was working on for the spacesuits. We look into the research of that and how can we put that into sheets. And so we've made a lot of really cool stuff. And right now we're talking to the soccer team to kind of provide them with our sheets so that their players could sleep better and recover faster, so they're more active on the field. And we're going to provide some more sheets to NFL players. So we're giving this out to, providing it for all these athletes to reduce the amount of time it requires them to recover from their workouts and whatever.
That's great. Kenya, any thoughts?
Oh, I was going to let John go. I thought John had a question, but I just was curious if you've done anything for bedwetting, because that's a big thing and it's really driven by biology and obviously bladder, but just curious to see if you ever thought of anything in that space.
I have not. With bedwetting, I was actually at a conference in Miami a few weeks ago. I went because the weather was warm and I wanted to go on vacation. And then I just happened to take an hour of my time to go to the conference. But I hear that adult diapers is one of the biggest growing industry in the non-woven textile. So adult diapers are becoming very popular, very chic. They have a lot of fashion, they look cool. They have this really beautiful male models that are rocking that adult diaper. And I'm like, yes, we need that because they're pretty much saying that the baby boomer generation is like a massive buyer. So I have not personally, but I hear adult diapers are cool.
And even kids that wet the bed. Like if there's a solution for that, you could help a lot of parents.
I don't know how. I would imagine I would have to use, I don't know. Yeah, I have to think about that. I don't know how I would do that.
Yeah. So John, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah. When we recently started working with a franchise that is in the mattress industry, and they actually manufacture custom mattresses and different levels of firmness, and then they have the retail floor as well. And so I've seen firsthand how the sleep business is growing. So first off, I love the segment that you're in. From a distribution channel standpoint, similar to what we're talking about with Bansi, what's been your target or secret sauce to how you've gotten the product to market? I have to assume there's a lot of educating that goes on because this is a unique in the space. Have you formed national partnerships that help you on the distribution side?
No, I don't know if I said this at the beginning of our show, but I'm quite lazy. And so I avoid extra work if I have to. And so once we have it designed and whatnot, we honestly don't do a whole lot of extra stuff. We make it and then we make it available and our customers come to us. We don't do a lot of marketing. We don't do a lot of much anything else. We just kind of just have fun. We create, we make sure we make the best things possible. And by making the best things possible, people will come to you and say, hey, I want that. I want to have the best sleep possible. And so even for me, I don't sleep anything but my own sheets. Even when I travel, when I went to Shark Tank, I had to bring my own pillowcase with me because I'm like, I know no matter how nice a hotel they're putting me in, they don't have sheets as good as mine. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my own stuff just for that. But
so what happened at Shark Tank?
I was called the best pitch ever. So if you want to go on YouTube and look up the best pitch ever, you will see me there. And I had a good time. And I might run it back again, go back one more time.
Great. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Okay.
That was a good time.
Okay. So I have a question for Wen, since he's talking about textiles and my love is textiles. So, and you mentioned about polyester with the footprint, sustainability and all. I agree with you all there. So what kind of yarns do you use in your product? What kind of fibers?
I would use something like a lyocell, which, as you know lyocell, I'm sure.
Yes.
So they can be made from eucalyptus. It can be made from bamboo. It can be made from a lot of different wood-based pulp. I use bamboo. I love bamboo. What else? Cotton. I try not to use cotton so much again because cotton is a very interesting material because the sourcing of cotton can be very problematic. You don't know where you're getting it from particularly, unless you're very, very good at like catching where it's from. it could be coming from, like some country that does slave labor to get the cotton produced. So, because it still have to.
So you would be able to use lyocell or tencel for different body types, the same fiber,
Not
same
necessarily.
fiber.
So again, you would have to look at which what are you making. So for, because I don't want to tell people what my materials are, but like for like the menopause sheets, we used the tinsel and eucalyptus because that was the best because one of the issues of menopause is that the reason you get a hot flash is because your body's internal temperature sensor is a little bit off because of changing estrogen levels. And so what happens is that it thinks that you are probably too cold. Even any small change makes you think you're too cold.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're way over time.
Oh,
I'm
no
sorry. This is so interesting. We could keep going forever, but I'm going to have to butt in and, menopause is an interesting subject.
Very nice way.
Yeah. So I do want to know where people can buy your sheets though. Where can I get a set of these?
Oh yeah. I mean, our website, HercLéon.com. That's the only place you can get it from.
Okay. So that's HercLéon.com.
Yes.
So thank you, Wen. That's really a great product. And I hope a lot of people go find it on your site because everybody needs a good night's sleep. So
yeah, and they should hurry up and get it soon because we probably might switch to invite only model soon because our inventory keeps selling out. We're sold, to over 100 countries in the world. So we might switch to invite only for now because we don't have the capacity. But yeah, when HercLéon.com for now is still public.
Okay, excellent. So listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit, The Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. What a fantastic show. I just learned so much, and I thought our guests were so engaging.
And more things to spend money on. Make our lives better. So we started with Jon Ostenson, FranBridge Consulting. So FRAN bridgeconsulting.com. If you're thinking about going into business and you need some help, you should talk to Jon about getting a franchise. He matches people up with franchises. And if you're looking for a franchise, he doesn't charge you anything. So, and he's got a lot of them to choose from. So I thought that was a fascinating conversation.
I really did. And I mean, someday I'd like to franchise Gearhart Law. I mean, that's been one of our growth models. And so it's, I'll definitely have to give Jon a call.
Yeah, you'll have to talk. We need to talk to Jon. And then we had Bansi Lakhani with Healing Hands Scrubs, healinghandscrubs.com. Now, if you go to his website, you can find out where you can buy them in a physical store because he wants you to try them on. He wants you to support small businesses, brick and mortar businesses. But I'll tell you, he sent me some, and these are amazing. If you know anybody in healthcare, they've got little messages in them of encouragement for the healthcare providers, but they look and feel super good.
Yeah, and Healing Hands Scrubs is a very spiritual company, I think. And one of the things we noticed was that each piece of clothing has an inspirational message sewn into it. So hopefully whoever is putting on the clothes sees that message and they're reminded to be grateful, or they're thanked for their service as
someone
healthcare.
Appreciates what they do.
Yeah.
And then we had Muenyi, and his only problem is with HercLéon, he keeps selling out. he has sheets that incorporate technology in a way that I really haven't seen a lot of before, that are specific to your physical characteristics, and they help you sleep better because they're kind of responsive to, like, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're elderly, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in a dorm room, etc. So if you go to his website, HercLéon.com, you should be able to find some in the near future, and then just follow him to see where you can get them after that.
Yeah, I was really taken by his comment that college students especially lose track of washing their sheets. So this is a good product for them and for elderly people too. It is interesting how bacteria can spread, and that's one of the ways it helps keep everybody healthy. So before we go, I'd like to ask for final comments from our guest, Jon. Any parting words for our audience?
Yeah, I'm encouraged every day. When I look across North America, we've got more and more people looking to become business owners and start businesses and create jobs. And so I think for the U.S., a lot of bright spots, a lot of opportunity in the road ahead. So we just love making it happen, helping people step into entrepreneurship, and feel blessed to get to do that.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Kenya?
Yeah, so today was really about, innovation and the power of the personal experience, right? So that's what franchising is all about. That's what Bansi's, ideation is all about with his scrubs, and when with his sheets, everything is an experience. And if you give people the right experience, they keep coming back for more and more and more. So now I'm off to Chick-fil-A.
And I'm right behind you. Maybe you could pick up a chicken sandwich for me. But in any case, it's time for us to wind down the program, and we'll be back next week and return to this station for another episode of Passage to Profit. And if you have trouble remembering our show name, just imagine walking down a long passage with a pot of gold at the end, Passage to Profit. And I'd also like to give a shout out to our producer, Noah Fleischman, Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. Our podcast of this show can be found tomorrow anywhere you find your podcast. So just look for the Passage to Profit show. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, while the information you heard during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without consulting with an attorney. Enjoy your journey on the road to entrepreneurship. And with that, I'm Richard Gearhart, with my co-host Elizabeth Gearhart, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Passage to Profit.